Welcome back to Academic Reports in English. In the last lesson, we looked at how to insert references into the body of a report. These references come from all kinds of different sources, such as journals, newspapers, government reports, and so on. In this lesson, I'd like to show you how to insert these sources into a reference list which goes at the end of your report. So, let's get to it. Firstly, we need to say why we need a reference list. This is a complicated area, so stay with me while I go through several reasons. Firstly, it's important that you give credit to the sources that you have used in your report. This means that you are acknowledging someone else's work by including it in the reference list. Secondly, your reader will get useful information by reading your reference list. The people who read your writing are interested in a similar area to yours, and they're probably looking for relevant and useful information. By reading your reference list, they can find out this information. In the same way, this means that if you are looking for additional information for your academic report, you can read other people's reference lists. By reading their lists, I'm sure you'll be able to find relevant and useful information. Thirdly, the reference list can increase the trust between you, the writer, and your reader. This trust is called credibility. The list of references shows what sources you have used and whether they are credible or not. If, for example, your research area is artificial intelligence, or AI, but all of your references are over 10 years old and you've not cited new information, then the reader probably won't feel that they trust what you have included. You need to have up-to-date and relevant information. However, if you include well-known and new sources in your field, then the reader will trust that you have a good knowledge of that topic and that topic's history. Finally, if you're a student, then the reference list can show your teacher that you have done your research and that you are a good student. So, having explored why we need a reference list, next I'll move on to what is in the reference list. The reference list is at the end of the report, and here in alphabetical order are all the references and sources that you have used in your report. The information includes items such as the author's name, the name of the book or journal that you have got this information from, a publisher's name if it comes from a book, and the date when it's been published. Many people also use the internet to get information, and this too can be referenced. A typical way is to write the reference and the website address and the date that you visited the website. The exact information and the order it is presented in depends on which style is chosen. There are many different styles depending on the publisher that you use or the institution, the school where you study. Some common styles include Chicago, Harvard and APA. They all vary slightly. In our model report, we use APA. If you're a student, then you need to check with your teacher which style they want you to use. And if you want to publish your report, you need to check with the journal or book or website that you're aiming for. Okay, I've talked a lot about the reference list, but now let's return to our model report and have a look at a real reference list. First of all, just to remind you of the 5 references that I've used in this report, we have Jacobson Lundeberg 2016, Lal and Godsey 2012, Amabile, Barsade, Muller and Storr 2005, Hall 2005, and finally Alexander et al. 2019. So these 5 references are then collected together in the reference list at the end of the report, and they are placed, as you know, in alphabetical order: Alexander, Amabile, Hall, Jacobson Lundeberg and Lal. Okay, in our next slide, let's take a look at one of these references, Hall P 2005. Here I've divided up the Hall reference into its different parts. So we can see on the first line we have Hall P 2005, Interprofessional Teamwork, Professional Cultures as Barriers, Journal of Interprofessional Care, Volume 19, Issue 1, pages 188 to 196, and then something called a DOI number. I would just like to draw attention to some of the features of this reference. So the first line, Hall, is the writer's family name and P is the writer's initial. And 2005 is when the article that they wrote was published. Now, this is an article, it's in a journal, and the article's name is Interprofessional Teamwork, Professional Cultures as Barriers. And you can see that the first word, interprofessional, has a capital I, and the word professional after the colon has a capital P. But the other words, their first letter is not capitalised, and this is typical of APA style. The journal is called the Journal of Interprofessional Care, and you'll see two things. Each major word, journal, interprofessional and care, the first letter is capitalised. The small word of is not capitalised. And you can see that the style of the journal is in italics. Again, this is a feature of APA style. So other styles will have a different way of highlighting the journal name. On the next line, volume 19 means that this is the 19th year that this journal has been published. And 1 means it's the first issue of the year. The last line of our reference is called a DOI number. DOI means Digital Object Identifier, and it's a unique address for this article that you can find on the web. Prior to 2011, DOI numbers began with the number 10, as you can see in this case. But after 2011, DOI numbers actually have their own URL address, and I'll just pop in an example here. So we just add http://doi.org, and then you add the rest of the number, so 10.108 and so on. And that gives us a unique internet address for this article. So just to recap, we can take old DOI numbers that start with 10, and old means before 2011, and we can add the usual web address beginning http:// to that number, which will also give us a unique internet address. And you can see in this case that the internet address has been highlighted, and if I just move my cursor over it, then that will enable us to directly link to that article. So down below we have a different example of a reference which has come from the internet but in a slightly different style from a DOI number. So here we have an article from a newspaper or a magazine by Hernan M, written in 2017, and the title of the article was Japan's Hidden Crisis, and it comes from this web page from a magazine called Tokyo Weekender, which has a unique address which we have copied here, and you can see that the last line says accessed on the 30th of May 2020, and this is to just in case websites do disappear, links do become out of date, and this is to show your reader how recently you looked at this particular website. So this is an alternative way to show your website that you've used as a reference in your report. As you can see, the way to write references is very complex. There are many different sources that you can use as references. I've already mentioned journals, books, websites, conference papers, organisation reports. Each one has its own style on how it's included in the reference list. In order to help you decide how to do this, there are many style guides produced by publishers. I already mentioned that we used APA for our model report. Just a moment. And this is the APA guide. Luckily, these guides are on the web and are easy to find out information. You need to find out what style guide you should use. Typically, if you're a university student, your university will have information in the library or on the library's website. Or an individual teacher can tell you what style you should use. If you're writing for publication, then the publisher will also let you know. In this lesson, we've learned about writing a reference list at the end of our report. This is a list of all the source material we've inserted into the main body of the report. The reference list should include enough information so that your reader can find those references if they need to. Such information includes the year of publication and the writer's name. And more sources are now online, so it's important to be able to show those online sources as well. Look at your own reports and check your reference list. What style do you use? How many sources are online? Have you included all the important information? How could you improve it? In our next lesson, we look at how to include our references correctly to avoid copying, or this is sometimes called plagiarism. See you there.